I'd like to call the April meeting of the Lafayette City Council to order. If everyone would please rise and face our flag for the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you very much. Would the clerk conduct a roll call?
Heidi, Klinker,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Reynolds,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Allersmeyer, here, Williamson, here, Downing,
Here.
Campbell,
Here.
quorum present.
You have received the minutes of the March 4th meeting. What is the pleasure of the council?
I move for passage of the minutes as communicated.
Thank you. Second. You have heard that. Is there any corrections to those minutes from anyone? There being none, would the clerk conduct a roll call vote on the approval of the March 4th minutes?
Klinker,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Allersmeyer, aye, Williamson,
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you. Presentation and disposal of claims.
There are none.
Presentation of petitions and communications.
There are none.
Reports of city offices on file in the city clerk's office.
Clerk's office, monthly February. Waterworks Department, monthly February. Water Pollution Control Department, monthly February. Fleet Maintenance Department, monthly February. And Water Pollution Control Department, Annual Report 2012.
All of those reports are on file in the clerk's office for anyone's examination during business hours daily. There are no ordinances for second reading, ordinances for first reading.
Ordinance 2013-06, an ordinance amending Chapter 4.06 of the Lafayette Municipal Code entitled Lafayette Farmers Market.
What's the pleasure of the council? Mr. Brown?
Mr. President, I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2013-06 on
Thank you,
first reading.
Mr. Olsmeyer.
Second.
Thank you. Comments by members of the Common Council. Mr. Meyer.
I guess I will comment because I sponsored this ordinance. This came about as a request from the downtown folks in the chamber. The farmers market currently operates downtown on Saturday mornings, and they're finding that they need some additional time to set up. And during that period of time, still a lot of people, or 3 or 4, it seems, every Saturday, are parking in the areas that say do not park for the setup. And the current ordinance, as it reads, allows the police to start towing those cars an hour before the setup, and the farmers market folks are advising that that's really not enough time. By the time they can call the police and get a car towed, it just delays getting some of the vendors set up. So they were suggesting a change in the ordinance to allow 90 minutes, and if the car is there 90 minutes before the startup, then the police would be authorized to tow it. So I said I would agree to sponsor this because it seems like it'd be the most orderly way to get the vendors set up and get the farmers markets. It's hugely popular, I think, in the community, and everyone appreciates the efforts and the opportunities. So whatever we can do to help facilitate that, to keep a good farmers market going, I think is appropriate. Although I do want to make sure that we post signs appropriately and give people fair warning before their cars start getting towed.
Any questions by members of the Common Council? I guess I have one question, Mr. Meyer. Does the farmers market have an hour that they open officially?
Yes, and that is, I believe, 7:30.
7:30.
And so currently they can't start, and they would like the vendors to be set up and ready to go by 7.
So then that would mean that the cars must be off of the street by 6 o'clock.
Yes. Yes.
Any questions by members of the audience concerning this particular ruling or ordinance?
Prairie Barber, 3700 Redbud. I just wonder, is these isolated incidents, or does this happen a lot during the last year or so? Because I guess I wasn't aware of these. I heard isolated problems, meaning 2 times in the last 3 years. Is what I personally heard. Is these more than that in a year's time, or?
Yeah, Perry, I'm advised that it happens regularly every summer, and it's usually 3 or 4 cars almost every Saturday, is what I'm told. And so, they've tried to work with the car owners, and they try to, encourage them, but it's not just isolated, I don't think, as seldom as...
You don't think it's isolated?
That's not what I'm told. I'm told it's more regularly, yeah.
Because what I was hearing in the last 2-3 years is it's different people, and it's and it's in the same location, but it's different vehicles, so is these going to be fines then?
No,
Because it's early in the morning to begin with.
right, and so hopefully they don't park it the night before.
Yeah.
If they read the sign. I think that the effort will certainly be to informally try to find who the owner of the car is first, contact him and ask him to remove the car. But there's no teeth in the ordinance unless the police can actually tow the car. So this gives them teeth, and it gives them the ability to threaten the towing of the car if the owners are not cooperative. But I know that they try to work informally with the owners first to try to get them to cooperate and voluntarily remove the cars.
Because we don't want nothing to happen to the good old farmer's market, because it's the oldest and the biggest one we got in the state, and we don't want nothing to happen to our great farmer's market.
Sure.
Because I just wanted to see if that was isolated, and you don't think it really is.
No, I'm hearing that it's happening more regularly than it should be, and so they need this.
Okay, that's all.
Maybe it's different people each evening,
Yeah.
or each morning, and they haven't gotten out of the various watering holes.
Yeah.
Or they let somebody drive them home.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pearl Sleepman, 923 South 22nd Street, Lafayette, Indiana. You mentioned signage. I know that costs money. Are you going to roll that cost over to them? Because I don't want to pay for it.
Well,
in other words, I don't know what fee they pay, but the cost of the signage should be rolled back in the fee and let them pay for it, because I don't deal downtown, and I'm paying enough now, so I don't want to pay for nobody else's signs.
I don't know the answer to that, Pearl. I will talk with them about that. I know that, of course, the city posts other signs in snow routes and all that, and do not park here, do not park there. And I don't expect that. I think that there are signs already there, so it's just a matter of replacing those signs, replacing the time of the signs. I don't know if the street department has put those up or if it's in conjunction with the farmer's market, but I appreciate your comment.
Yeah, because you're going to have all kind of groups wanting you to put a sign up for something. And it's not fair for us to pay, and I don't even come down there. So I don't want to pay for something if I don't use it.
Any other questions by members of the audience? There being none, would the clerk then conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2013-6?
Blinker?
Aye.
Myers?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Ordinance 2013-7.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Uzo Amendment Number 75, zoning commitments.
Mr. Clinker?
Move we hear and approve 2013-07.
Mr. Meyer?
Oh, second. Just making sure this wasn't the one I had a conflict on.
Okay. Comments by members of the Common Council. Mr. Jerry.
Reynolds?
Yeah, as this came before the Area Plan Commission, this was a vote 12-0 to approve and to move on. It kind of takes care of some of the commitment issues and so on that we've had, and speeds up the process a little bit.
It's an amendment to the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Any other comments by members of the Common Council? Members of the audience wish to address this particular ordinance. There being no comments, then would the clerk please conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2013-7 on first and final reading?
Blinker?
Aye.
Myers?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Ordinance 2013-8.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, to rezone certain real estate from I-3 to GB, Enoch Investments, 3589 Sagamore Parkway North.
Would the clerk please make note that Ms.
I can do that.
He's going to excuse himself.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dodge and work again.
Mr. Downing, we need a,
I move to hear and approve ordinance 2013-08 on the...
now,
Second. Or should it should be 09. Oh, 0.
Right.
See?
Hey, that way is right.
Sorry.
Time out.
Hurry.
I'm in a hurry.
he has never made a mistake.
Ask me.
That is true.
Comments by members of the Common Council. Jerry?
Again, this was an isolated this was an isolated incident brought before the Area Plan Commission, and it's kind of clean up the area and to make everything kind of fall in place what's already there. So it was approved 12-0 again by Area Plan, recommended to move along.
Any questions by members of the Common Council? Members of the audience wish to address this particular ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Joe Bumbleberg with Ball Eggleston. I represent the petitioner here. Mr. Brand is also here with me this evening. This matter came before the Area Plan Commission at its last regular meeting, was unanimously passed by the Plan Commission. There was a staff recommendation of approval for this. They noted in their staff approval that the recent plans in this general area all were tending to suggest that the GB was the more appropriate zone. The staff of the city's redevelopment and Lafayette Commerce both supported this petition. And just as a general matter, this is about 37, 38 acres down there that's zoned industrial currently, and what we're discovering is a difficulty in bringing tenants in with business in the I zone. The financing people are becoming very concerned that I is the appropriate zone for this matter. What Mr. Brand and his company have on the docket for us down there is, of course, they have their big building, their 300,000 square foot building, and it has about 8 or 9 tenants in it now that are quite adequately working in that area. They have their second building, which is a 40,000 square foot building, and to that building they want to add 12,000 square feet so that they can grow a company called ACEL, which is an interesting company that is there already and is just growing and growing and growing in the sense of both people, employees, and salaries for their employees. Good economic development is what that amounts to. Their plan then also is to build another building over toward the corner of their land, another 13,200 square foot building. And when ACEL takes all the building what they're in right now, it will be necessary to have the other building to move tenants into that building. So this is a program of development that only can be done under the general business. And we would respectfully request your approval this evening. Thank you.
And this first building you mentioned, that is in the, let me think about this, the southwest corner of that property.
First building on this site was the old Duncan building.
Oh,
That's the big old building there in the back, the one that has their big sign on it that says INOK on it.
gotcha.
Then if you're looking at it from Sagamore Parkway to the right there is another building that's up and operating, and that's the current 40,000 square foot building. And the new building that they plan after they get done with the addition to the 40,000 square foot building would be a building then, if you will, to the left of that, closer to the Duncan Road side.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Bumbleberg? Excuse me. Thank you. Mr. Bumbleberg. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. First of all, good to see you, Mr. Bumbleberg. Haven't seen you in a little while here.
Well, I've had other problems like working in the town of Dayton.
Oh, jeez.
Everybody has to have their priorities, Mr. Brown.
My question was, and I guess you've already answered it because I guess the continued development of this property. I was asking in caucus, I think, whether this GB was for the purpose of development and saleability rather than what they were actually something that's going to be done. But it looks like they got plans for this property.
They've got plans.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Any members of the audience wish to address this particular rezoning? There being none, would the clerk then conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2013-8?
Mr. Clinker?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downey?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell, do you want to vote?
Is it necessary?
I think we're good.
This is a rather contentious issue.
It might be. Ordinance passes 6-0 with one abstention.
Thank you. Ordinance 2013-9.
Okay, sit back, everybody.
And you may note that Mr. Meyer returned.
I wrote that down. Very good.
Back to
An
work.
ordinance concerning the refunding of the City of Lafayette, Indiana, of its Sewage Works Revenue Bonds of 2000, Sewage Works Revenue Bonds of 2001, Series A, and Sewage Works Revenue Bonds of 2006, authorizing the issuance of Sewage Works refunding revenue bonds for such purpose, providing for collection, segregation, and distribution of the revenues of the Sewage Works, and the safeguarding of the interests of the owners in said works of refunding revenue bonds, other matters connected therewith, and repealing ordinances inconsistent herewith.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. President, I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2013-09.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. President, Mike Jones, Controller, members of the Council. As we have been coming before you now since late last year, trying to take advantage of historically low interest rates, we have another opportunity with the bonds that have been mentioned in this ordinance to, again, refund and save some money. We typically hope to have at least 3% savings, and in this case, based on anticipated interest rates, we're looking at the possibility of an 8% present value savings with a dollar value of over $5 million that we can save. With that, we do have folks here from Bose McKinney and Evans, Crow Horwath, and Piper Jaffray to go into much greater detail than I did to discuss the bonds. But again, it is an opportunity because of the historically low rates that we are seeing right now.
Questions?
With that, I'd start off with Mr. Piper Jaffray.
There you go. I got it.
Not amended, right? It's the original.
Councilmen and women, thanks for your time tonight. My name is Landon Bain with Piper Jaffray. We're an investment bank, and we're part of the financing team that's approached the city about the refunding opportunity on its Sewage Works bonds. The packet that I'd like to briefly flip through here includes substantially succinct information covering the opportunity. With that, if you jump to the first page, I think this is, to Mike's point, this is the interest rate graph just since 1987 showing the interest rate levels that we're at. And I think it's a good point to note that the city's taken advantage of it. If you flip to number 2, or page number 3, sorry. This is a bar graph showing the total debt scheduled for the Sewage Works system. And the graph here tells you a number of things. Number 1, the total debt that's scheduled, which is inclusive of the red portion. Number 2, the light gray section, which is the debt that we're focused on tonight. And number 3, the red section, representing the anticipated reduction in debt service through fiscal year 25 rather. And if you'll note, the arrow pointing there denotes a $5.62 million savings level, which, as Mike mentioned, is pretty high on a test basis. I think the focus point is on the interest rate itself, which we've preliminarily estimated at 2.17%, and this is down from 4.1% of the current bonds. So, you understand where the savings comes from by that cut in interest rate. The refunding goals, as we've defined them and worked with city staff to define them, include maintaining a level debt service of the system, so to provide the most beneficial impact on sewage rates. And as you can see, we're working with a slightly abnormal structure, i.e. a structure that doesn't perfectly amortize level. And if you look at the light gray portion, we're doing a bit of wrapping around your current debt structure in the dark gray there. That has abnormal payments in 23 and 24. But again, the goal is to maintain a level debt structure, which we do through the bond sale process. And then two, to produce sufficient savings as the council has made action to proceed. The next page is a breakdown by bonds that we're refunding of the savings expected to be generated by refunding each, starting with the Series 2000 bonds, totaling $3.16 million over the life, Series 2001A totaling almost $600,000 over the life, and then Series 2006 totaling $1.85 million over the life. And if you were to average this out, understanding that we're structuring this debt for an overall level debt service structure of the system, your savings isn't going to be perfectly equivalent in every single year, but on average we're at about $475,000 annually in savings. With that, I think I'll introduce Jennifer with Crow. I can entertain further questions.
Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Wilson. I'm a rate consultant and financial advisor to the Sewage Works. And as Landon has talked about, we have evaluated these possible savings, and we agree that the city should pursue this savings. It reaches between 8 to 9%, and I believe your minimum amount that you usually consider refunding is at 2%. So this greatly exceeds that threshold. But I'd be happy to entertain any other questions.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tony Setzer. I'm an attorney with the law firm Bose McKinney. We'd be bond counsel on this transaction. Landon and Jennifer hit the important points in terms of dollar figures you're looking at saving here. Really what we're doing tonight is we're introducing this ordinance for a first reading, come back next month, hopefully for a second reading, and approve it towards finishing it up for a closing, price the bonds, and get a rating in them. Any questions you have, I'm glad to entertain.
I missed something there maybe. Did you say that you're going to come back in a month and have an approximate figure as to what the interest might be that we're going to be faced with?
No, I didn't say that. Pricing, when do you have pricing scheduled for May? Yeah, so I don't know that we would have that at that next meeting.
You would have what the figure would be then, if would that be true or not?
The figure on the interest rate?
Yeah.
No, that would be probably between the next meeting and when they actually close. So the ordinance provides that you will approve a rate up to a certain number, 6% in this case, which we all believe it will be much less than that, as Landon discussed. But that keeps you from having to come back and approve this again, and gives them the flexibility to go ahead and close once they set that.
Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman? Thank you very much. Members of the audience wish to address any of these folks, Mr. Jones or the folks that we've got here? No comments? The clerk then conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2013-9.
Clinker?
Aye.
Myers?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Oh,
would you like to vote?
No, that's fine. Resolutions 2013-7.
Resolution of the City of Lafayette Common Council approving order of the Tippecanoe Area Plan Commission.
What's the pleasure?
I move for passage of Resolution 2013-07 on first and final reading.
Mr. Dowling? Second. Thank you. Comments by members of the council? I'm guessing that, Jerry, you might have something to say there.
Well, this was actually, I think
Dennis
Dennis,
Carson.
Oh, Dennis Carson.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
think he actually probably needs to
good.
address this. He brought it before the Area Plan Commission, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Dennis?
Blame everything on Jerry.
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director. This is the third step in a process where we are expanding the Creasy TIF and then consolidating it with the central TIF. So this went to the area plan for approval and against the comprehensive plan, which it was approved by that body. And then what this ordinance does is that, a resolution does that is again, it expands the Creasy TIF by 196 acres, including an area that includes the home hospital site, Murdoch Park, Murdoch School, Columbian Park, and some of the surrounding area, and then also consolidates it with the central TIF because it now touches that area. So this allows us to have the resources and to be able to participate in guided development in the home hospital area. Then it also helps us to streamline our administration of the TIF and better utilize our resources for both areas in the downtown and in the Creasy area.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Carson? Mr. Meyer?
Just one, Dennis. Has there been any recent or current inquiries about that home hospital location that has caused us to want to include it in the TIF? I mean, are there certain benefits or anything that we're thinking about offering to any prospective developers yet? The owners have had discussions with folks, but there's nothing firm yet. But this, would give us the ability to participate with resources if there was something out there that we think would be a good for the neighborhood and good for the Lafayette. And so the TIF, this would bring in, if there's an improvement made on that property, then since it's in TIF, we could potentially realize the improvement in the tax base.
Correct.
Which it probably was fairly low when it was at the hospital. Were they paying taxes when it was home?
Paying taxes, but it was assessed pretty highly. It hadn't been used for 4 years. It was half demolished as of March 1 of this year. So we're hoping that the base is close to zero. That's a discussion we're still going to have with the assessor, and so then any improvement on that property we will be able to recapture. So that's the intent.
And the potential benefits, I suppose, that we could maybe offer developers, maybe some infrastructure, streets or sewer, water,
trails,
things like that, trails.
And this also did include the Columbian Park area too. Is that correct? Is that what?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, correct.
Do you anticipate any further expansion in the TIF district? Because I'm looking at this map, it looks like a Texas congressional district.
I think that's going to be all for a while.
Any other questions of Mr. Carson? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments or questions by members of the audience? There being none, would the clerk then conduct a roll call vote on Resolution 2013-7?
Clinker?
Aye.
Myers?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Resolution passes 7-0.
Reports of standing committees. None. Reports of special committees. Reports by the mayor. He says that the weather is fine.
Better than here.
Florida, yeah, okay. Miscellaneous and new business. Reports of councilmen. Public comment. Yes, sir.
Pearl Spigman, 923 South 22nd Street, Lafayette, Indiana. On the 25th,
Whoa! In the middle of it.
Yeah.
on the 25th, I had an interesting walk. But I want to thank the police officer for acting like a human and not call me an effing punk or effing juvenile, like the last police force did. But what I did see, I seen a city that's growing too fast. You're like the little boy on the playground. You're jumping on the 5 guys and there's only one of you. You got McCarty Lane. It's a disaster. I walked from Kmart out on 26 down up to McCarty Lane. I guess some citizens didn't like it, so they called the police. So the police stopped me and asked what I was doing. I said, what do you think I'm doing? Walking. And he handled it like a police officer should. So that's one good thing for them. Well, I'm telling you guys, if you annex a place, if you can't take care of it, don't take it. Don't be like these people in welfare having 5 kids and only don't take care of one. You're annexing too fast. You're annexing too fast. You don't have the police officers to take care of what you're annexing. You don't have the code enforcement. Yeah, you enforce a little down here on 22nd Street, you'll enforce one. Up in the north end where the mayor lives, you'll go on by. Down the south end, you'll go on by. Up here on Main Street in Columbia, you'll go on by. I'm telling you, you're going too fast. You just don't have organization. And right now, you can go, and I know Brother Ron did tonight, but he said he was going to. He said he was going to come down Columbia and turn Main Street and turn on Columbia. It's still sitting there. The trailer that I told you guys about 2 years ago is still sitting there. I looked, and Mr. Sandy Knight made a statement to Clarence Jenkins 2 or 3 years ago. The reason that he couldn't do something down on 3rd Street is because he was acquaintance with the people that owned the property and was friends with the people who lived there. Ordinances are for everybody. Your friends are excluded. Everybody. I was talking with Jenny Miller a couple years ago. She said she would talk to Alan White about cleaning up some of these properties. Alan White has got one down here on 3rd and Ferry right now. He's got a sign down there, which I think is out of order. Are we going to operate this city on buddies? I don't see too many buddies up here. So please, do something with this city.
Thank you, Mr. Speakman. Any other comments by members of the audience?
Prairie Barber, 3700 Redbud. I guess I wasn't going to say anything, but I think we got outstanding policemen. We do have some that, just like any other thing else, but I think we are proud of our good policemen we got. And I guess I'm offended when someone says negative without any meat behind the bones. We need meat when we come to the council. Sometimes we don't bring it. Anyway, with that said, we talked about signs earlier today. Isn't necessary for people parking in front of the city hall. This bugged me for years. And now parking right by the city hall, is coming into the city hall by the drive or whatever you want to call it, by the front door. I always thought that seems kind of funny to park the vehicles when if you're coming into the doing 10-15 minutes, I can see, but I know the space is limited downtown here, but there should be, the circus should be free from cars parking.
I think there's a 30-minute limit there. I may be.
Yeah, I'm talking about right in the center, right in the center. There is no display of the 30-minute parking or anything. The center out by the front of the building.
It's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
There's brown signs that say 20-minute parking out there.
Minutes on.
Yeah, but when you're in the council for an hour plus, that's more than the allotted time.
That's business hours, right?
I assume that was during business hours.
Right,
9 to 6.
That's the way I treat it.
Oh, I guess I look at it differently. I don't have too much to say. Just have a good night, y'all.
comments by members of the audience?
I'll move. Oh, okay. I'll second.
Aye.
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.